Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. If you would like to testify, you must fill out a witness slip with one of the sergeant at arms. Just a reminder, no one may approach the dais at any time. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you very much. I am Gail Brewer, City Council member, and I'm honored to be here today. I'm also very honored that Councilmember Stevens is here with us and Councilmember Felice is on Zoom. So we are here for the Committee on Government Operations, State and Federal Legislation. I want to welcome the representatives from the administration, members of the public, and as I indicated, 2 members of the City Council. At today's hearing, we will be doing a couple of things. First, second discussion will be talking with DCAS about the oversight of vacant and underused city property. DCAS manages 15 million square feet of city-owned properties across the 5 boroughs. It is essential that every square foot is being used for the greatest benefit for New Yorkers, whether that is for housing or agency use or even being leased out to private tenants. And of course, my issue for bringing this is that if you look at the storefronts around City Hall, 253 Broadway, 280 Broadway, they're vacant, and we'd love to have them be habitated. Both the current and former mayors use executive orders to create a task force to review unused or underused city property that could be turned into housing, but there is no similar attempt to leverage city property for non-housing purposes. And there's currently no accurate way to determine whether a city-owned property is completely vacant or underutilized. The city-owned and leased property, known as CULP dataset, published by the Department of City Planning but based on data provided by DCAS, is supposed to provide this information, but the data isn't particularly useful. Each record in CULP is a unique use of a tax lot by an agency. So if an agency has multiple uses for a tax lot, there are multiple records for that agency. The data also does not specify if a property is in use but underutilized. And while CULP data does identify properties with no use, it is not clear what exactly this means. I think we need a better understanding of how DCAS is managing these city-owned properties so we can ensure that they are being used for the maximum benefit of New Yorkers. Additionally, we will be hearing 3 pieces of legislation. First, we will be hearing my bill, intro number 87, which will combine the Archival Review Board and the Archives Reference and Research Advisory Board into a library and archival review advisory board. The boards already hold joint meetings and submit joint reports, so this should not be a major change. We will also be hearing number 541, sponsored by Councilmember Felice, that would require that whenever the city acquires real property and that property becomes vacant, DCAS must lease or rent the property within 5 years. That's his bill. And intro number 542, also sponsored by Councilmember Felice, would require DCAS to report on the use or vacancy of space in city buildings. And I know that you will hear first from the Department of Records, known as Doris, because that commissioner has another appointment. I want to thank from the Government Operations Committee, Jahari Frazier, Erica Cohen, and Sigmir Hamid, and from my staff, always Shula Puder, and everyone who made this possible. And we've also been joined by Frank Morano from Staten Island, who is my buddy who went to the Cardinals inauguration with me. Thank you very much. So now, without further ado, we will have the swearing in of the participants from the agency today. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I will administer the affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? All right, you may begin when ready.
Commissioner, go ahead. You got to push the button to turn it on.
Turning it on. A day for challenges, a day for challenges. So good morning, Councilmember Brewer and members of the Committee on Government Operations. I'm Pauline Toole. I'm the Commissioner of the city's Department of Records and Information Services. I appreciate the opportunity to testify at this hearing on Intro 87, which would amend the city charter to merge our two existing advisory boards at the department. As you know, Doris is responsible for three key government functions: establishing and enforcing records practices and policies, providing access to city government information, and preserving the historical records of city government. We do this through the three divisions: municipal records management, the municipal library, and the municipal archives, with essential support from the information technology, external affairs, and administration units. One of our advisory boards, the Archival Reference and Research Advisory Board, was established in 1977 when the agency was created. At that time, the board played an active role in shaping the new agency and met almost monthly. Now, 49 years later, the board largely serves as a sounding board around the agency's outreach initiatives. The second board, the Archival Review Board, was established in 2003 after former Mayor Rudy Giuliani removed the mayoral records of his administration from the city to have them processed by outside consultants. The same local law that established the board also created charter procedures that must be followed if an outside entity is contracted to process historical city records. This outsourcing can only occur if the commissioner certifies that is its necessity under extraordinary circumstances. Beginning in 2014, the boards have been holding That's not right. Beginning in 2024, the boards have been holding joint meetings. The most recent annual report for fiscal 25 was issued jointly. The proposed local law codifies these current practices. It preserves the appointment structure, giving both the mayor and council speaker responsibilities, creating a combined 9-person board with the mandate to advise the commissioner and evaluate the management of both the archival and library collections will provide oversight. I want to publicly acknowledge that the members of both boards have volunteered their time to suggest improvements, review the agency's collection processing plans, and report on activities from the municipal archives and our external affairs divisions. They are creative, thoughtful people, and the agency has benefited from their insight. Doris strongly supports the proposed local law, as do the members of the two advisory boards. Combining the two existing advisory boards into a smaller board will be efficient and still serve the guidance and oversight purposes. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very partial to the records of this agency, so I'm glad to hear about this. Everybody knows the story, but I want to make sure everybody hears it, which is that when I was in the city council before, I think some guy by the name of Bloomberg, and I like Mayor Bloomberg, but he decided he wasn't going to keep Doris, it was going to be merged to DCAS. Well, I was head of government operations at that point, and I had a heart attack. And then de Blasio came in, and I made damn sure that Doris stayed separate. I just want everybody to know that story, because it was done with the assistance of the archivists, of which there are many. And if you're an archivist nut like I am, they're the most fabulous people who do care about our history. So I think, Frank, you'd enjoy that story. Absolutely. Anyway, so my question is, I think you just sent in some reports. I just was wondering if you could evaluate or just let us know what they said. I have not had a chance to read them because I think they just came in.
Yes.
And what is this, when are they supposed to come in? How would it change in the future, et cetera?
Well, the language wasn't clear in the charter as to whether the report should be issued on a fiscal or calendar year basis. And some time ago, one of the boards was doing calendar year and one of the boards was doing fiscal year. And when we began combining, we decided to do fiscal year. So the joint annual report was just submitted, and it covers the processing work in the municipal archives. It shows the quantity of records acquired by the archives in the fiscal year, which was over 1,000 cubic feet and 1.6 terabytes of data. It reviews the digitization work we're doing, because a big project at the agency is making the historical records more generally available to the public. So we do that by digitizing things. that is not just putting a stack of papers in a printer and pushing a button and turning them into PDFs. We have this kind of sophisticated software that's meant for historical preservation, so it renders the document to a very high resolution, and we digitized and made available more than 101,000 records on our Vital Records site, which is used around the world and provides people who are interested in family history with 13 million records eventually. That's our goal. And they're free and they're downloadable and they're beautiful. We digitized the 1890 police census, which is a unique document. Most census data from 1890 was destroyed in a fire. So this New York reference tool is uniquely valuable. And we began working on Mayor David Dinkins' photograph collection, which is, I don't want to say a pet project, but it is something that we're really trying to focus on. And with Mayor Dinkins, as other mayors, so much of the collection documents the mayor's activities, but it also documents what was going on elsewhere in the city, and the people in the photographs aren't always named. So part of the project is digitizing it, but then engaging with people who were in that administration to help identify the other personnel in photos, which is really kind of a fun thing. Anyhow, it goes on. It talks about this great grant we got from the federal government to preserve the Brooklyn Bridge collection, of which there are more than 10,000 drawings, and they're beautiful. A section of them, 7 of them, was just on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art as real, like, extraordinary works. And then we have a grant to process and digitize the Commission on Human Rights records. That's a very valuable collection with national significance. And so part of that is doing the archival work of processing and digitizing. And then part of that is figuring out how to engage communities around the work of that commission and its predecessors, which were established starting with LaGuardia and then Wagner and then eventually as the commission. And then, our small staff, it has, provides research services to patrons, and they responded to over 7,000 requests in the year and dealt with over 2,000 on-site visitors and digitized just for on-demand research. Let's say someone is in Harbor Beach, Michigan, and they want a record about New York City, and they email back and forth. We'll digitize and produce that. And then it goes on and talks about the really wonderful public programs that the agency has organized over the years, including multiple lunch and learns per month, and a project that we initiated that's called Neighborhood Stories, which interviews residents of the city about their history. They're not full oral histories, but they take people's remembrances, and we have those. We're about to launch a whole website of them, and the goal is those individual stories will connect at some point with government decisions documented in the historical records. So there really is a nexus, and that is a way for us to also engage communities that are generally not thought to be interested in government records, because the records document what happened to their streets, what happened to the schools, et cetera, and this is a way to make that collection. So those are the highlights of the report.
Fabulous. And then thank you. That's fabulous, and I'll look forward to reading it. The other issue, of course, is there is, though, boards meeting together now. Are they all slots filled? Are there people that have certain expertise that need to be on it? How is the committee comprised?
Well, the Archival Reference Review Advisory Board doesn't have any criteria for its membership, but our goal was to have it represent the diversity of the city, so ensuring there were representatives from every borough, bring on people who were interested in history and government, and try to use them to explore ways of presenting historical records. The Archival Review Board does have requirements and that has 2 appointments by the speaker, 2 appointments by the mayor. Both of those positions have been filled, one by the deputy counsel to the mayor and the other by an archivist. And then the speaker has a records manager, archivist representative, who's a staff member of the council, and a vacant appointment.
Okay. So it's 4 people is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And the other question is, are they like terms, or is it just at will? How long do these people serve, or is it not stated?
They serve until they're replaced.
Okay, so it's
But
at
the
will,
ARB
basically.
members have 4-year terms, and the ARRAB members can serve in perpetuity.
Okay. And so how would that best be for the future? How would you think it would work for the future if we're
Well, the proposed legislation has 4-year terms.
I want to know if that's okay with you.
Well, that is okay. At one point we talked about a staggered implementation so that not everyone left at the same time, because as the board gets, established anew, if everyone's appointed at the same time, that creates a level of turnover that's not necessarily ideal.
That's what I was asking.
So I think if you have half of the people appointed for 4 years and half appointed for 2, you then begin to have you'll have an ongoing advisory presence.
Lose the
Yeah,
sort
the
of
knowledge.
intellectual property of people's knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and do they consult with outside, do you have outside speakers come and speak, or is it mostly just looking at what is being presented to them by your wonderful agency? How does that work?
It's all been what we've presented, and then if board members have questions, we work those through.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again. I apologize for the delay.
Not your fault. The line was very long downstairs. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So now we'd love to hear from DCAS.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Brewer and members of the Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. My name is Laura Ringelheim, and I'm the Executive Deputy Commissioner for Asset and Property Management at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, commonly known as DCAS. And I'm joined by my colleague, Matthew Burke, Assistant Commissioner for Planning, Dispositions, and Property Management in the Real Estate Services line of service. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come before you and discuss surplus city-owned real estate, in particular, the DCAS surplus portfolio. As you know, DCAS is responsible for providing agencies with the real estate they need to support their operations. DCAS also has its own portfolio of property, which totals approximately 1,800 tax lots, including over 55 court and multi-agency office buildings, 400 long and short-term lease agreements, 500 lots with unique characteristics, and 900 lots with limited marketability. And while this number may sound like a large and significant amount of property, I would like to provide some details about the portfolio, its challenges, and its opportunities. So in 1996, when tax foreclosure processes in New York came to an end, DCAS had approximately 11,000 tax lots in its portfolio. And there were rigorous efforts to relocate these properties to better benefit the city. And as a result, many were allocated towards new parks, affordable housing, economic development, and other city priorities. Others were sold through public auctions. And the vast majority of surplus properties that we're now left with have limited marketability and largely do not meet the operational needs of the city. The lots in our surplus portfolio include wetlands, lands underwater, and map streets totaling over 500 lots. In addition to that, the portfolio contains sliver lots, access ways, and interior lots, which have also limited marketability. For these limited market properties, which total over 900 tax lots, we have what we call our sale away program, which allows DCAS to directly dispose of these undevelopable properties to abutting property owners. So picture a 1 foot by 100 foot deep strip between 2 brownstones, and that is the prototypical image of our sliver lots. However, interest from an adjacent owner is needed for a sale, and since the inception of Sale Away in 2010, DCAS has offered for sale around 100 lots through this program and sold 39 of those lots, totaling $6 million in revenue. In addition, DCAS administers over 400 revenue-generating long and short-term agreements for the private use of city property. We also have properties that are on hold for future use by other agencies, including for HPD and EDC for affordable housing and economic development projects. Tenants vary from small and medium-sized businesses to community benefit organizations and homeowners, and uses range from retail stores and restaurants to community facilities to industrial ground leases and accessory residential uses. This portfolio generates over $35 million in annual revenue for the city. In addition to these mostly vacant lots, DCAS has a portfolio of approximately 10 small surplus buildings that are currently unused. And these buildings average 12,000 square feet, but many are smaller than 3,000 square feet and all have capital needs to be brought into a state of good repair for use. We have been working with partners, including some at the City Council, to activate these buildings through ULURP and subsequent public auctions. Before any public auctions, however, DCAS makes and offerings of the properties one last time to city agencies for possible reuse. Specifically, DCAS has worked with HPD to review many of these sites for housing opportunities, and we look forward to continuing these conversations with our council partners that will lead to opportunities for public activation of sites. Throughout the years, DCAS has consistently worked with agencies to identify properties suitable for their operational needs, as well as for strategic dispositions for housing and economic development by way of example. Each agency has access to the DCAS database of properties, and vetting of sites for future uses is an ongoing collaborative effort. When new properties are surrendered to DCAS as surplus, a review is conducted, and in many cases, DCAS offers the property to agencies for potential reuse. When a property is found that meets an agency need, DCAS works with them to transfer that property to that agency. Despite the challenges, DCAS has been and is making tremendous efforts to activate these properties. It's a priority of the administration to ensure we're using properties for housing while also providing essential city services. DCAS is part of the Land Inventory Fast Track, the LIFT Task Force, with the Mayor's Office and other agency partners. Separately, DCAS has been reviewing its portfolio for suitable sites for mayoral priorities. And recently was successfully partnered with the New York City Small Business Services and New York City Department of Cultural Affairs to locate temporary artist studios in vacant retail spaces, such as 2 Lafayette Street. Aside from this location, DCAS is currently evaluating future opportunities for 2 of retail spaces located at 5th Avenue and 86th Street in the Bay Ridge Municipal Garage in Brooklyn. With regard to Intro 542, DCAS shares the desire to make data available for public consumption in the most usable and intelligible format. We would like to point out much of the data is already available, published by the city, and is updated on open data. DCAS and City Planning put forth the CULP City-Owned and Leased Property Data Set on open data, which contains information on city ownership or lease status and agency use. In addition, City Planning puts out the Pluto data set that contains detailed information about each tax lot. And even though some of this data may be published in different formats and some data points may present challenges to generate, we look forward to engaging in conversation to ensure that the properties are put to the most productive use in the most efficient manner. In addition, regarding Intro 541, DCAS supports the intent of the bill, and we share the desire to ensure vacant city properties are used in the most productive way possible. However, given the unique characteristics of and inherent limitations in the DCAS surplus portfolio, as outlined in my testimony, there are many properties that are inappropriate or impractical for leasing for traditional uses. Moreover, there's a lack of interest from the private sector to lease certain of these properties. So therefore, we look forward to working with you on creative strategies for portfolio activation and leasing. And we're always looking critically at our portfolio to come up with creative solutions for activation of these unique properties. With that, we welcome any questions or comments you may have.
I have a number of
Go ahead.
questions related to your testimony. I'll begin, though, with one that's not. I noticed yesterday was the first stated meeting that we've had since October where there was no borough flag flying over City Hall. Do you have any insight as to why the borough flag is not flying anymore? That was one of Commissioner Molina's achievements.
I don't know, but
No.
we will look into it and
Great.
get back to you.
Thank you very much. Talking about the 1,800 lots you alluded to in your testimony, you mentioned 900 with limited marketability, 500 wetlands or underwater, 400 lease agreements, and 10 vacant buildings. Of the 1,800 lots, how many are revenue generating today versus sitting completely idle?
So 400 are revenue generating. 400. So, and just to clarify this, so the 500 tax lots that are underwater literally are underwater wetlands. So there's really no opportunity
Got
in
it.
almost those cases to generate revenue from those lots.
Of the 900 lots that were deemed to have limited marketability, when was the last time each was independently evaluated for alternative use?
So we constantly reevaluate the entire surplus portfolio. So particularly for sail away, which I mentioned,
Hmm.
those lots, we are continuously looking at them to see and putting out for offer if any of the budding landowners would like to purchase them. So I would say routinely they're looked at. Again, these are sliver lots or interior access ways or other places that not a lot of people would want, and occasionally it's we do get somebody who's interested in buying them.
You know, I learned a lot about Sail Away through your testimony, which I confess I didn't know much about before. But you mentioned $35 million in annual revenue, and that Sail Away sold 39 lots for $6 million since 2010. Since the Sail Away program began in 2010 and only 39 lots have been sold, that averages fewer than 3 per year. What's preventing faster disposition?
I'll let my colleague Matt take that question.
Thank you, Council Member. It's interest from the abutting property owners that is the most important piece to convey these properties. If someone isn't interested in buying, let's say, a little sliver of their backyard, if someone isn't interested in buying a little sliver of their backyard, then we can't, unfortunately, force the sale. So it's something that we have to hold on to and wait for a future use or
They
opportunity.
get to use it for free. Why should they pay?
Exactly. I'm wondering if you've evaluated bundling limited market lots for auction rather than relying just on the adjacent owners.
Before Sail Away became a program in the city charter in 2010, the practice was to offer those properties through public auction. But unfortunately, what we found is sometimes people buy properties on speculation. They haven't seen the property, and they're buying a piece of someone's, let's say, corner of their building. So that is why we created the Sail Away program to allow for those sales directly to the abutting property owners, which are the most appropriate users for those properties.
Two final questions, if I may, Chair. In a hybrid work environment, how much of the city's office footprint is currently underutilized, and have we reduced our leased space accordingly?
So that was another project that we began in the last administration, but continue to work with our agency partners to really analyze what's being used and where can we either relinquish lease space or consolidate. I don't have the exact figures at this point of where we've been able to consolidate, but we can also get back to you on that. And as far as having telework now as an option, we're also looking in ways to more efficiently use space. So if someone is not sitting at a desk, how can we use that real estate better?
You mentioned Brooklyn, specifically Bay Ridge, and obviously Manhattan. Nothing about my borough in Staten Island. I'm wondering if you can provide a borough by borough breakdown of surplus or underused city property, and specifically how many are located in Staten Island. Are there city owned properties, for instance, on Staten Island that have been vacant for more than 5 years?
Well, I can tell you off the top of my head that 55 Stuyvesant had been vacant. It was an EDC project that they RFP'd, and that didn't go through, but now that is part of a new court redevelopment project. Apart from that, I think we have the community.
Well, as far as vacant lots go in Staten Island, there are many properties in that borough that are wetlands, land underwater, also properties that were acquired for resiliency purposes that are intended to be vacant for the foreseeable future. So there's a large chunk of those properties. But as far as buildings go, 55 Stuyvesant is definitely one that's undergoing ULURP right now for active reuse. And there are a couple of other small buildings that I think are pending decisions on future use. One is 67 Targi Street, the former criminal court. And then the rest are just the surplus portfolio.
Which we can provide you a list of.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, my question would be the buildings around City Hall. I'm delighted that the last administration did a much better job of the city store. I'm a nut about the city store, but I was wondering about the addresses I gave you, plus future for 2 Lafayette and anything else that's around here, because it's hard to have a streetscape that's active, and then complain, as people do in my area, how come so many vacant stores, Gail? And yet here's the city doing the same. So how are we activating these stores?
So for 253 Broadway, which you had mentioned, that retail storefront is not city-owned space. It's a private landlord. That the city owns a cooperative share of its office space in that building. So it's a private landlord that has the tenants there. So we're not able to fill it unless we became a lease tenant, which is actually what has happened at 280 Broadway. We do lease that space. The city, it's an all city-owned building. As part of an economic development project in the 80s, that ground floor retail space was leased. We do lease back 2 of those spaces, and the others are private tenants. But again, the landlord is responsible for filling its vacancies. We don't have any jurisdiction over that. To Lafayette, on the other hand, we had, I think during the last administration, done a couple of auctions. Those were not successful, but we would love to either use an auction mechanism or look again for a city need that might be able to use that space. Or I think we temporarily had cultural affairs and an art exhibit there, which was a fantastic use of the space. So any of those are up for grabs. Concession agreements, we're always looking for new ways to use that property.
So to Lafayette, obviously we're talking about the storefront and the entire building, or just the storefront?
Just the storefront.
Okay. But I guess what I'm saying about 253 and 280, we all need to put some pressure on whomever the owner is, because people in the neighborhood think it is owned by the city. And so you are blamed for lousy management of commercial space.
Right.
So are we doing anything to put can we help with some pressure on these owners? It is really horrible to have that space homeless, garbage, filth, etc.
We definitely can talk to landlords and see if there's anything we can do to help them lease that space. I think we at least got the scaffolding down around 253, which makes the space more attractive.
Right.
And anything else that we can do to help clean up the space, the area in front of the space.
All right. I mean, I think that should be a priority, just because of the, I am a believer that you can do all you can for the people of the city of New York. But if you have a face that is not what people think should be, then government is blamed and not thought about as productively as one would think. All right. So offline, I may try to get the names of those owners and put my own pressure on them.
Okay.
The courthouses. So when I was head of oversight and investigation last term, we did go to the Bronx courthouse. Those are all your courthouses. Leaks everywhere. Now, I know it's a funding issue, but it's hard for the persons who are visiting, defendants, judges, staff, etc. So I'm just wondering if it is the Bronx courthouse in the worst shape. I think Manhattan also has some problems, etc. So what are we doing about courthouses in general? Because obviously the court work is state, but you own the buildings.
Correct. And we work closely with the Office of Court Administration for funding needs and repairs to those buildings. But we from the last time I think I had testified again about those courthouses, there is constant remediation work happening. I could not tell you today as to what has been done over the past year or two, but we can certainly get back to you on our ongoing efforts, including roof repairs or facade work, or many of those projects were ongoing a few years ago and may have been completed.
Okay, so because that would be helpful to know, particularly in the Bronx. That would seem to be the worst in terms of leaks, to be specific. My other question is that you indicate on the website that most of the properties for lease are vacant lots, as we heard earlier, used by property owners. Wouldn't it be possible that, I think some of these are near houses of worship. I know, for instance, that's a place that there are lots of them. I agree with you that it makes no sense to have somebody from another location just look at a map and say, let's bid on this. So I have been through this before, so I feel strongly what you're doing is correct. But is there some way so that you get them off of your list to have the adjacent person take it over even for free, so that it gets off of your, in some cases you might get some property taxes out of it. I don't know. Sometimes it's next to a faith-based, therefore it would not be property tax eligible. But looking at this, it seems to me there are some very small slivers. I know one park in my area between two brownstones, they're now using it as a park, a community garden type thing. It's working out really well. I guess it was, I don't know if it was yours or Parks, but it's the same idea. Get it off of my rolls and give it to the Black Association, and they'll do something with it. So I just didn't know if you have a for free or $1, or does it always have to be sold?
No, I think you can hit the nail on the head. I mean, part of it is property taxes, right? Sometimes they
Yes, that
don't
would be
want to
helpful.
acquire even for free, but the adjacent landowner might not want to acquire that because then that becomes part of their tax liability when they might have use of it at no cost to them.
Okay.
But I think particularly the suggestions that you made, if we do have any adjacent to houses of worship, or we can explore other options. But I think we do have some flexibility in terms of how we, encourage sales of those properties.
Right, and I think if you were to provide the borough base, you can do Staten Island, I can do Manhattan. We can figure out
That'd be
between
great,
the two of
yeah.
us if there is some solution so that they are actually used by the adjacent in a productive manner.
We can definitely do
Even
that.
if you get a
We would-
little bit of property tax, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So of the 55 city-owned buildings that DCAS manages, how many are either vacant or are there partial vacancies? Where are the vacancies located?
There's almost no vacancies in the 55 buildings that we manage.
Okay.
The only ones that come to mind are things like the 9th floor of 1 Center Street, which is currently undergoing massive capital construction to move an agency in there. Same with the 25th floor. But routinely we are, I want to say, constantly inspecting whatever we can or asking our agency partners to complete floor plans so we can ensure that they're using their space to the max. And, particularly like a new administration will come in and they'll have new needs or for, agencies or expansion of agencies. And we always look first at what is available. But there isn't for city, especially for office space. Courts have jurisdiction of their own space, but for our back office space, that's constantly under review. So very little space is vacant unless it's under construction.
So picking up on my colleague's question, so I guess what you're doing is a systematic account of the properties to determine which ones are obviously vacant, but more importantly, underutilized. And then I assume you obviously have where you're renting, which is not necessarily the same thing we're talking about, but if you're renting and you wanted to bring people back because of the savings to a city-owned building, obviously you have long-term rentals, so you can't just end the rental at a particular moment. But how are you looking at this portfolio? Because there are, I know when I go to DSS, it's the most beautiful building, brand new down on Greenwich Street, of course. So how do you look at some of these agencies and try to figure out ways that we can save money?
So for both
Long term, because it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Sure. For both leased and city-owned sites, we have now, after a project that was starting at middle of de Blasio administration, gotten floor plans and as-built of what each floor looks like. So each desk is accounted for, and those are routinely filled out by the agencies indicating occupancy. And in order to update that, this was an ongoing effort since 2018, and we really finished getting all the floor plans into our new Archibus system. So now we have the ability to routinely have the agencies certify how many people are at how many desks. And
They probably lie a little bit because they want some space.
they probably do a little bit. We try and encourage, honesty or, kind of a carrot stick approach, especially where, pegs might come up, if they can relinquish office space and take the credit for that. And we as DCAS, being the agency that leases for other agencies, also look at when leases are going to expire and what's an expensive lease and what can we get out of and where can we consolidate. So, right, it doesn't happen overnight, but, and these are the results I don't have for you yet. What have we been able to give up or what's in the plan to give up that we won't need to keep that much volume of office space?
That's what I was
Especially
wondering.
leased.
So do you know how much leased space you have, just generally?
We have about 27 million square feet, and that's both
Leased.
of
Okay.
leased. That's both office space and other space, including industrial or parking.
Right.
About 60% is office and 40% other.
Okay, 60/40. Okay. The other question I have is, I know we talked about the courts, but do you know where you need repairs in all of your different buildings? You keep track of that? Obviously, the courts are the ones that I'm heard about the most?
Sure, sure. Well, we do have a ticketing system, so we do keep track. Everything is put through that Archibus ticketing system for work orders and repairs. That's the way we keep track of repairs that have been done and what's outstanding.
And that would be in your buildings in particular, not the leased ones, obviously.
Correct.
How do you work with the communities to determine if you're moving forward with salvaging these buildings for future use? I noticed in your testimony you did talk about working with the community. How does DCAS do that, if at all?
Sure. Matt, you want to take that one?
Sure. So, in order to repurpose a building for a new government use and spend capital funds, site selection ULURP would be required. So, that's our opportunity to engage with the public, the community, council members like yourself, borough presidents, in order to get the feedback needed and get the approvals to change the use and set up new government operations.
Okay. And in terms of, again, sort of back to this issue of underutilized properties, that again is part of a database, or is that something you do internally?
Also part of the database.
Part of the database. Okay. There are some issues. Are you looking at the databases between Pluto and your database? There is hard sometimes to compare apples to apples. Are you looking at that issue?
Yes, do you want to?
Is that your specialty?
Yes, we definitely have data experts within DCAS Real Estate Services. We also have a very adept IT team that knows both the business end of it as well as the data pieces behind it. So we do a lot of synthesizing of data in order to make recommendations and decisions to activate properties and put them to the best use.
Okay, because it's hard sometimes to figure out exactly what the use is, given the two databases that you have to look at in order to determine that. You're aware of that?
We are aware definitely of a little nuance in the data, the
Little.
one-to-one relationship versus the one-to-many or
Yes.
many-to-many relationship. And that is something we are always working on with our IT group to understand the data.
Maybe Lisa can help you. Galopter.
Wonderful.
I've noticed since she's born, just so you know. My question also is back again to this issue of efficiency of the space within the building. What are the incentives? In other words, with the agencies, how do you incentivize them? Obviously, it's a little bit of self-referral, but how do you incentivize them to use the space within their building effectively and not compensate, I should say? The PEG would help. Are there any other methods of doing that?
I think we're always looking at that because it is hard to police that volume of square footage of space without having the agencies incentivized to really efficiently use that space. Right. Besides the PEGs, I think we do want to explore other options.
I won't give names, but I've been in agencies recently and I've been surprised at the amount of space they have. And I didn't see too many people there. I'm just saying. And this is city space, not rental. So I'm just pointing out that there could be more efficiency. No.
Well, we'll always take.
I'm not giving you the list. No.
Okay. That's what I was just going to ask you for.
So, what is the citywide space saving task force? Who's on it? When does it meet? What are the recommendations, et cetera? You mentioned that in your testimony.
Yes. So at the moment, we work closely with OMB and DCAS and that really is the core of who constitutes Space Savings Committee, but we also work closely with City Hall because it really takes the whole village and everybody being on the same page in order to maximize the savings. And I think, that ongoing effort, I think will continue and we'll try and make it stronger and figure out a way that to incentivize the agencies to
and
relinquish.
Maybe make it more transparent with some of your databases. That would be helpful for the public.
Sure.
Okay. We obviously were part of the migrant crisis. I supported a lot of what the city did because I feel strongly about these families. Wish in some cases they were still here, but they came and went in large numbers. So were you part of the leasing situation for either DHS or H&H, et cetera? And have all of those properties been returned, those that are no longer part of the city's portfolio? How does that look today? Because that is a question that nobody really knows the answer to.
So I cannot answer that myself today. I wasn't part of it at the time that some of those agreements were entered into. I mean, my understanding is many were H&H. And
they did their own leasing.
I would have to get back to you on that. I know DCAS played a role for some of the licenses. But I'd have to get back to you on what still exists and what the status is.
All right, and you would be able, because or did like the hotels, for instance, H&H did that leasing, you did that leasing, combination of it, dependent?
I believe so, but I was not in the real estate line of service at the time, so I would have to look into
And the
that.
reason I ask is I think Bruckner is the last building that has migrants in it. I was in it maybe 7 or 8 months ago. There are 2,000 men there. I don't know whose building that is, whether it's yours or privately owned. I don't know. It's a very large complex.
I think Bruckner might be a DCAS license, but I'd have to
Okay,
look into
that
that.
would be something to know. I guess what I'm trying to find out, are all the licenses finished? Are we still paying money on some of these buildings? What's the revenue situation, or I would say cost, if
cost.
at all? It's hard to keep track.
Okay.
I mean, I have 2 in my district that are vacant. I assume they were H&H. I assume that nobody's still paying rent on it. I don't know. That would be helpful to know.
Okay.
Okay. I think you feel that there's like a 1% vacancy rate on your buildings, or is that something that's hard to determine in terms of vacancies?
Are you talking about for commercials?
Commercial. Yep,
Commercial.
commercial.
On the buildings. Well, we
One, I mean, both. I am interested because you said that the owner of the commercial, which is typical in private buildings too, I have to say, different owner upstairs in the commercial, sponsor, many times it may not be your situation, keeps the commercial. That happens. So my question is, do you have other commercials around the city that are in that situation, like 253 and 280, with commercial that is vacant because the owner is not renting, and maybe you have the space upstairs? And then, so that would be one question. And then also, just generally in your buildings, is it a very low vacancy rate? I mean,
I think
municipal building would be an example, for instance. I assume it's a low vacancy rate at the municipal building.
very low vacancy rate there, right? 2 Lafayette we know is vacant. I mentioned in my testimony Bay Ridge. Matt, do we have any others?
Aside from 280 Broadway, which is under long-term lease to a private tenant until 2048, the only other retail spaces that we have are 2 Lafayette Street, which is city-owned,
Yep.
as we mentioned, and there are 3 DCAS retail spaces at the Bay Ridge Municipal Garage. 2 of those are currently vacant.
Okay. So 280, you said, is in the hands of that commercial owner until 2048?
Correct.
2038, okay. And it's going to be vacant till then, is what we're thinking.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, right? They have various different retail spaces. I know they have had tenants over the years.
Yeah, but it's vacant right now, so I'm just saying. All right. When COPE, is that how you pronounce it, lists of properties having no use, what exactly does that mean? Because, again, this is this data issue. See, what does that mean? When COPE has in the database, the fact that it has no use, in other words, that might be those properties that you feel are underwater or have, what does no use mean in that database?
Thank you for the clarification. It means just that there is no active use by the city or any of its tenants or anything like that. So the property is just vacant with no day-to-day use. And an example of that could be a wetland property
Right.
or a resiliency property that was acquired to be vacant.
Okay. And that's where that large number comes, but many of them, as you suggested, are underwater or in a situation where they can't be used. Okay,
Correct.
that makes sense. Real estate deals take a while, 2 to 3 years, usually. That's at least probably the minimum. Do you think, is it hard to know that we will need more space, even though we feel like we have fewer employees and more people are on Zoom, et cetera, et cetera? Do you feel like we will need more rental space in the future, or that we will be able to consolidate more into our city-owned in the next, say, 4 years?
I think that's our goal. It's hard to know if there's going to be some big expansion of something, but I think for many years, particularly with telework, that we should be able to. You'll see in the reports that we might renew or amend, but to take new space, it might be a relocation or a consolidation, but really keeping the same footprint or reducing the footprint.
Okay, so 2 Lafayette is going to be renovated above, or we don't know yet? And you've got 22 Reed Street also with the African burial ground issue. I've been around a long time, so I know some of these things. What's going on with those 2 building?
So 22 Reed is, well, let me go with 2 Lafayette first, slated for renovation. There's already a capital budget for renovation, and
So it's fully funded, the renovation?
I'm not sure if it's fully funded, but there is a plan to, there's a lot of exterior work, the building systems work, and then the floors that need to be renovated. So I'm not sure if we have enough to do the entire building, but it is fully occupied at the moment and will continue to house city staff.
It's fully occupied, but it's depressing to be in there.
Yes, it needs work for sure.
22, I think 22 Reed is also occupied,
22 Reed for the most part is occupied.
but is it going to stay or is it going to be torn down? It was slated to be sold at one point.
Correct. So there's always issues that come up. It kind of comes up time and time again if we're going to sell it or repurpose it. I think the African burial ground issue, it still survives, but I can't say to what the administration might intend or hope to do with that site.
And is that slated also for renovation or not at this time?
Not at this time.
It's also depressing to go into. It's horrible. Okay. When you go to that versus DSS, oh my goodness. One of the other questions I have is, when you work with the private parties, do you work with short or long-term leases, or is it just depending, I guess, on what the cost is and how, what the agency needs, right? Just in terms of as a policy, shorter-term leases.
To lease for city use?
Yeah, yeah.
Mostly longer term leases. Usually when we get to a space we know we need it, there's a lot of analysis that goes into that on multiple stakeholder fronts, because we're going to make a long-term commitment to stay there and usually, get the benefit of the bargain of being an A-rated tenant that is going to stay for a long time.
Okay.
So longer term is the usual, unless we might do a license agreement for a shorter period of time.
Okay. Air rights. I'm very familiar with air rights. You have sometimes unused air rights, I assume. I'm always nervous because when you sell them, they have to land somewhere. And then sometimes landing for the neighborhood is a challenge. So everybody says, let's use the air rights. I say, yeah, fine. Where are you landing the air rights, please? So I'm just wondering, do you think about air rights? Do you have some opportunities that make sense to sell them for revenue for the city, et cetera? Just the whole issue.
So air rights are something that we look very closely at because planning for the future and agency needs and cities of the future, you never know what you're going to need. So we don't have an active program to just dispose of air rights to whoever asks for them. Air rights are only looked at for projects that really further city and administration goals. For instance, if air rights can be used for affordable housing or for economic development purposes, then we see air rights sales move forward and we partner with other agencies like HPD and the Economic Development Corporation. But for DCAS public auctions, air rights are not considered appropriate for those.
Okay. Have you done these for affordable housing? Have you sold air rights for some of these other purposes?
In partnership with those other agencies, yes.
Okay. Now, this other agency, it is so complicated for the public to know, because we always think DCAS owns, no, Parks owns, HPD owns, EDC owns, DOT owns. Is there some kind of a database that makes this all clear? I should know this as, somebody who believes in the data, but the newsstands are owned by X. Those ones over there at the municipal building, they're making me crazy. Those are DOT. They're not filled. They're having some court suit that's been going on forever. Okay, I write a letter every year to the commissioner, whoever it is. What about the kiosks? They look like hell. They got graffiti on them, etc. So, but you get blamed. One municipal, one Center Street, that's DCAS. Oh, those must be those kiosks belong to DCAS. So I'm just saying, is there like a discussion amongst the different agencies that own city property as to who is going to, work on these different projects, or is it everybody's on their own?
So the way the city-owned properties are handled is I'm glad you pointed it out. The misnomer that agencies own their own properties, all properties that we talk about city-owned are owned by the city. The city of New York has title to them, and properties are then allocated to the different agencies that have responsibility for them. So Parks has the Parks portfolio, NYPD, the precinct, and whatnot. So the CULP data, if you sort by the agency tab, you will be able to see the different agencies, and not all agencies hold their own land, but you'll be able to tell that through the CULP data and the uses. And then you'll be able to associate with either the address or the block and lot. So for One Center, those kiosks are outside of the tax lot boundaries. So those would be on a different distinct property record than for One Center.
Okay, but for the public, it's confusing, and they do blame you for all of this, just, so, all right, so I don't have any other questions? Do you have any other questions? I appreciate, I think the follow-up is borough by borough breakdown, and then also the courthouses to know, particularly in the Bronx, that was a disaster, but maybe it's all been repaired. I doubt it. And then we would like to work with you to put a little pressure on the owners of those in our immediate City Hall area, not to Lafayette, obviously. And I love the art thing. Are you going to do more?
I would love to do more. It was a great
I
use,
think
and
we'd love to
I think
help
we're
you.
working with cultural affairs
Great,
now.
that'd be terrific. But the two that are right front of the building need pressure. That's what I could come up with. We may come up with a longer list, but those are the issues that I would love to follow up on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we're opening the hearing for public testimony. I remind everyone that this is a government proceeding and that decorum is observed at all times. You have to be silent. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed at that table. Members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the record. If you want to speak, please fill out an appearance with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 3 minutes to speak at today's hearing, which is about vacant and underused city property. If you have written testimony you wish to submit, please give a copy to the Sergeant. You can also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings are not accepted. For in-person, come up to the table once your name is called. And now we will ask the first witness, which is Jack Connors from Open, New York.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jack Connors, the City Legislative Manager at Open New York, a statewide grassroots advocacy group that advocates for abundant homes and lower rents. Thank you, Chair Brewer, and members of the committee for inviting us to testify today. The Municipal Arts Society estimates that there are more than 44,000 acres of city-owned land in New York City, roughly the size of Brooklyn. At least a quarter of this land is partially not in use by the agencies that oversee them. As we confront a historic housing crisis decades in the making, it's crucial that DCAS, and all city agencies make better use of this sixth borough. A week ago, we celebrated the groundbreaking for Timbali Terrace with council members Encarnacion and Salam. 341 affordable units for New Yorkers making as little as $30,000 a year, and 97 supportive units for formerly homeless New Yorkers on the site of a former NYPD parking lot. Since 2023, Sunset Park and Inwood have built new libraries topped by deeply affordable housing. New Utrecht Public Library is in the early stages of pursuing a similar project, and the city's Educational Construction Fund is pursuing a project in downtown Brooklyn that will redevelop an underutilized and outdated public school site with over 1,500 mixed-income units while providing a new, modern school building. These projects are proof that co-locating public goods yields real benefits for the communities they're in. Now we need to replicate this success hundreds of times across the 5 boroughs and make haste. Timbali Terrace took a decade and 3 mayors to break ground. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers are expected to apply to live there, orders of magnitudes higher than the units available. We're excited for the results of the Land Inventory Fast Track Lift Task Force and hope to build off blueprints like former Borough President Levine's Housing Manhattanites report, which found 170 city-owned sites within Manhattan alone that could be a good fit for housing. More than anything, rent-burdened New Yorkers need council members who are saying yes to affordable housing, especially on vacant and underutilized land. Balancing new production with tenant protections, we can build an affordable city for everyone. We appreciate the council's time and attention to this matter. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you for your testimony and for being here. I know you have said, and Open New York has said, we need more housing of all types, right? In your view, is there any neighborhood in New York City that has already taken on more than its fair share of density? I ask this because in my neighborhood, um, every time a house is sold and there are plans to knock down a 1 or 2 family house and put up 10 units of housing or 14 units of housing, there's almost a riot. Residents grab pitchforks. And I'm wondering what Open New York's view is on sort of the burden of the whole city and if it's been evenly shared.
I mean, I think it would be hard to argue that. If you look at the New York Housing Conference has a great database where you can see, I think it's broken down by council member, which which neighborhoods have added significant housing, both last year and over the last 10 years, and which have not. I mean, I'm sure everyone in this room can think of, there's Williamsburg, Waterfront, Long Island City, there's Councilmember Wan's district. There's many areas of the city that have added tons of new housing, and there's other areas of the city where housing production has stagnated or declined in many cases.
Do you believe that zoning reform should be contingent on infrastructure capacity, schools, sewers, transit, emergency services, or should density come first?
I mean, that's a loaded question. I think that a lot of that has to do with the way we plan. I think there's in a past life, I was doing transit advocacy, and it's kind of this rigmarole between the city and the state, where the city says, "Well, we can't have more density there. We don't have this example, the transit infrastructure to support it." And then you hear the state go, "Oh, we can't have more. We can't build a subway line out to there. We don't have the sorry, did I say density? We don't have the infrastructure to support," says the city. Then the state says we don't have the density to support the infrastructure. But I do also think, though, there has to be some, we used to do this all the time. I mean, New York and now TOD is this kind of radical thing to many, but I mean, the whole 7 line was greenfield development. There was a time where we figured out how to strike that balance. So I think there is a way. And especially, it's important to keep in mind things like everyone's vision is giant skyscraper. No, I mean, in the past, we're talking about duplexes, sixplexes. These are things that used to provide the missing middle of housing, so that a senior who's getting older and they don't want to maintain their new home, they can take their 3-bedroom flat and they can convert it into 3-floor flat, turn it into 3 units of housing, so that they can live on maybe the ground floor doing it. We used to provide for this flexibility, and we don't anymore.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the needs of different communities, and not everybody needs skyscraper apartment buildings. Should local communities and community boards retain meaningful input over rezoning, or do you believe land use decisions should be primarily citywide mandates?
I mean, I think, again, I would say the voters have spoken on that. I mean, there was yes, communities should, of course, have discretion over certain aspects of development, but we've also seen there needs to be a recognition of the fact that this is a citywide and really a region-wide issue of constant housing production that's taken place over decades and decades, that's gotten us to this point of a historic housing crisis. And last November, when the voters had a chance to weigh in on that, they said that yes, the local process should play out, but that every stakeholder involved in the ULURP process should operate in good faith, and then there should be an opportunity for elected officials who have a more borough and citywide focus to weigh in as well if that development ultimately doesn't shake out.
Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Pitchforks will prevail. We will now turn to virtual panelists. For virtual panelists, once your name is called, we will unmute you, and the sergeant will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. I will call on Alex Coretti, who is on Zoom, as I understand it.
Starting time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I'm actually in Egypt right now, so I was not able to attend in person, and I'm on my phone because the internet's not super stable. but I'm here and ready whenever
Go right ahead.
you are ready.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm actually here about Doris and not the DCAS proposal, just to clarify. But I'm speaking on behalf of the Association of Professional Genealogists, a professional organization representing more than 2,000 members worldwide who rely on New York City's records to do our work and help New Yorkers understand their own history. And that work depends on reliable stewardship of public records and enforceable access to them. APG strongly opposes Proposal 87-2026 as it's currently written. Consolidating the two archives boards can be reasonable, but this bill does not keep the same functions of the boards as it currently advertises it does. Instead, it strips the city's archives oversight structure of the very independence that makes the oversight real. As Ms. Toole referenced, we've been here before. In 2002, there was controversy over the Giuliani administration placing the records of the private organization. And in response to that, the City Council created the ARB specifically to protect the priceless and unique public records of the City of New York. Today, the Archival Review Board is a truly independent oversight body. Under the City Charter, any member of this board can inspect and review archival work and record-keeping practices during work hours. And that is the point. The overseers on that board can actually oversee the agency. The new bill inserts a critical change that board members can inspect and review records only with the concurrence of the chair. And the chair of the board is the Doris Commissioner. That means under the new structure, oversight will only happen if the agency being overseen agrees to allow it. No serious accountability system is built that way because it's a conflict of interest. APG urges the council to reject this bill or amend it to preserve independence. At a minimum, we should strike the concurrence of the chair requirement, and better still, the commissioners could be removed as the chair entirely, and the board could elect their own chair. That way, the oversight board oversees Doris and not the other way around. Thank you very much, Chair Brewer and members of the committee for your time.
Thank you very much, and enjoy wherever you are, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future, and we thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
We've now heard from everyone who has signed up to testify. If we inadvertently missed anyone who would like to, please visit the sergeant's table or complete a witness slip. If we inadvertently missed anyone who would like to testify virtually, please use the raise hand function in Zoom, and we will call on you. I do not see anybody who has raised their hand, so I would like to note again that written testimony will be reviewed in full by the staff, and it may be submitted to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing. You can email it to testimony@council.nyc.gov, and I would like to thank everyone who participated. This hearing is now ended.